What's up, nerds? My name is Corey Bergeron. You are watching Corey Bergeron Recordings, and we're back with a brand new video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Darkglass Ultra plugin made by Neural DSP. This plugin is an emulation of two different real bass guitar pedals made by a company called Darkglass, and those two pedals are the B7K as well as the Vintage Ultra. So Neural DSP worked in collaboration with Darkglass to create this plugin. The first thing I want to say is I am totally late to the party. This plugin came out a year ago. I downloaded the trial last night, and then I've been messing around with it a bunch today, and I really love the way it sounds. I love the versatility in it. A lot of people think it's only for metal, and a lot of the demos I've seen are for like metal, but you really can get a wide variety of different distortion out of the pedal, as well as the EQ on it is flexible, and yeah, it honestly just sounds really great. So obviously the demonstration at the start of the video was me playing through this plugin, but I actually have Pro Tools in front of me here, and I have a bass recording and a drum recording, and on the bass recording I have an instance of the Darkglass Ultra, and I'm going to do just a brief kind of overview of the plugin and kind of tweak some knobs so you can hear how it interacts. One thing I want to note is that you can download this trial as well for free. There's no catch to it, so if at any point you are interested and you want to mess around with it, go ahead. I will leave a link in the description for you to download the trial. So with that being said, let's jump into it. I'm going to just close this plugin, and I'm going to play the bass without any effects on it other than a little bit of compression to just kind of keep it locked in. So this is DI bass with a little bit of compression. So you can hear it's a jazz bass, a G&L jazz bass, and I used to pick and I played simple bass guitar. A lot of the bass guitar I record is really simple stuff like this. So now let's hear it with just the stock Darkglass Ultra plugin on it. I haven't tweaked any knobs. Out of the box, this is what it sounds like. And that's how easy it is to get a good bass tone. All jokes aside though, seriously, it sounds really good right out of the box. Let me play that with the drums just so you can kind of hear some context. So it still sounds great. Okay, so let's go through, and I'm going to start tweaking some knobs and kind of explaining a couple things, and then yeah, that's what we're going to do. So with the plugin open, you can see that we have the Microtubes B7K Ultra, and then if we click over here, this becomes the Vintage Ultra, and that's the two different pedals that it's emulating. So I'm going to go back to the B7K, and I'm going to start clicking through these knobs here. We have the master, which is basically the master volume of this pedal. We have the blend. This blends between the B7K as well as the direct signal. So if I were to turn it to the left, you would only be hearing the DI signal. If I turned it all the way to the right, you'd only be hearing this pedal. Then we have the level, self-explanatory. We have the drive. This is the distortion, and then the bottom four knobs here are the EQ, bass, low mids, high mids, and treble. And you can change the low mids and the high mids, how they interact, and this is really cool. I really like this feature about it. You can turn the distortion off, you can bypass the whole plugin, and then you have basically the exact same settings on the Vintage Ultra version, and the EQ points seem to be in the same area as well. Up here at the top right, we have the presets. You have the output of the plugin, the input of the plugin. There's also a gate, which is nice, and then you can link the EQ to work between the two pedals if you want. And then if you click up top here, you also have the cabinet simulation where you have the microphones. You can choose the position, all that stuff, the distance. And yeah, so let's go back to the B7K. And again, this is untweaked. This is just what it sounds like right out of the box. I'm going to press play and start messing around with stuff, and we will go from there. So let's do it. So you can hear the wide variety of low gain as well as high gain. What I like is that it adds that chimey top end to the bass. So if I bypass the bass and press play, it's kind of dull, doesn't sound, it sounds like a DI bass. Even with the drive all the way down and the EQ at its stock settings, just having this plugin on adds a lot and helps the bass cut, gives it some character, and is honestly a totally usable tone. And even with the drive all the way up, it doesn't sound like it's crapping out or it's too far gone that it's not usable. With the drive all the way up, it honestly sounds fantastic. Yeah, I love that. Honestly, on a song like this, I would probably lean towards having the drive all the way up. Okay, so let's talk about the EQ section here a little bit. We have the bass, the low mids, the high mids, and the treble. The bass and the treble are kind of like shelves, and then the low mids and the high mids have these 3 different frequencies that you can change with the switch. So on the low mids, if it's all the way up, you're affecting 500 hertz, then we have 1K, and then 250 hertz. And then on the high mids, we have 1.5K, 3K in the middle, and then 750 hertz on the bottom. It's weird that the frequencies are not in like an ascending or descending order. I really do like the frequency ranges that you're able to manipulate here. So let's go through it. Again, I'm going to play the bass, and then I'm going to start just kind of tweaking, and yeah, you can hear the difference. So oftentimes when I'm tracking bass, I find the 200 hertz area usually overlaps with the snare and the vocal, so it's nice that I'm able to kind of dip it a little bit there. The 1K and the 500 hertz, it really depends on the song and the initial bass tone, but those are frequency ranges that are nice to mess around with. On the high mid here, a little bit of the 3K is nice. It gives it kind of that top end that helps it cut, but I find it's really easy to go overboard on. And then 1.5K is also a nice frequency range to boost as well, and you kind of get a bit of a smoother top end, but you still get a little bit of clarity. So that's a really brief look at the Microtubes B7K Ultra. Let's switch over to the vintage model and just hear how that sounds. Okay, so I have this back at factory default settings, so let's hear what it sounds like right out of the gate. Right out of the gate, to me, it just has a lot more low, mid-range stuff. It doesn't sound bad by any means, but it definitely would need some carving to fit in a dense rock mix. So I'm going to just tweak some knobs again, similar to what I did on the other one, just so you can kind of get a brief idea of what this plugin sounds like. Okay, if I only had the choice of using one of these 2 pedals to use for the rest of my life, I would definitely go with the B7K Ultra. I think it just would fit in a mix better from the get-go. But with that being said, I don't think the vintage Ultra sounds bad by any means, but I'd probably want to throw an EQ on it afterwards to kind of carve out some of that mid-range to get it to fit with everything. Alright, so I'm going to switch back to the B7K. We're going to switch to the cab simulation section of the plugin, and we're going to mess around a little bit. I have not messed around with this literally at all, so this is me, first impressions. What do we got? Okay, so I've clicked around for a couple minutes, and I guess let me just say that I've mic'd up hundreds of guitars and bass amps, and I usually mic them pretty close to the cone, usually off-centered. As long as you have a good amp and a good cab and you mic it up properly, it's pretty easy to capture a good tone. So it is nice to have a little bit of flexibility with this. If you want to change the frequency response a little bit, I find moving the mics around sometimes helps with some of the resonant frequencies that are poking out. What I think is really cool about this section is that you're able to load a custom IR, meaning that you can put your own cab impulse response into this plugin, which I think adds a whole other level of versatility. If you have some cab IRs that you like, you can throw them in here and give them a shot. If anybody from Neural DSP is watching this, or if anybody knows the people over at Neural DSP, the one thing that I would add to this plugin would be a tuner, because I think this plugin sounds great, and oftentimes this could be the only plugin in the plugin chain, and I know personally I would have no issues tracking with only this plugin on, so having a tuner built into it I think would just make my life a little easier. Okay, so there you have it. That is a very brief overview of the Darkglass Ultra. Again, I'm late to the party. This plugin came out forever ago, but I really like the way that it sounded, so I want to share it with anybody out there that's also late to the party. There's a link in the description. You can go download the trial, check it out. All right, so that's going to be it for the video. If you want to talk audio, or if you want to talk about my band, Locket, you can do so in the Discord server that I have. There will be a link for that in the description. If you're curious about the gear that I use at home or live on the road, I also have an Amazon store where you can check out what I use. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, drop a like, subscribe, comment, all those things, and I will see you in the next video.